The world feels a bit toxic and blah these days, doesn't it? The same old people coming up with the same old solutions for big problems that still don't work. We need to change the game. Well, welcome to Women Advancing. Join me, host Kate Byrne, in this dynamic bi-weekly podcast, bringing together female founders, funders, and thought leaders. Listen to the people driving change, how they got there, how you can help, and yep, how you might just be the next one to advance. Proof that all ships rise with women at the helm. That's what happens when Women Advance with Kate Byrne. For this episode, we're going to take a look at future of education. So how does human design impact curriculum? Is AI a friend or a foe? Does it actually deliver diversity and accessibility or not? These are just some of the questions we'll be discussing with founder and CEO of iCurric, Dr. Dawn Sizemore. Her unique combination of behavioral practice and technology make for longer lasting results in learning. And she builds customized curriculum that takes into account every person's learning style. No wonder companies such as UPS, the Russell Innovation Center for Entrepreneurs, and the Atlanta Black Chamber of Commerce are repeat customers. Dr. Dawn has taken EdTech to a new level. How? Well, you got to listen and learn, literally. We are so fortunate to have Dr. Dawn Sizemore, the founder and CEO of iCurric, join Women Advancing. Dr. Dawn, welcome, welcome. Excited to see you.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm so happy we were finally able to make this happen.
I know. Well, you have been so incredibly busy, which is wonderful to see, because since we've known each other, I think I've been, fortunate to literally watch what is nothing short of meteoric growth and climb on your end. So I can't wait to hear all about it. But before we go where we are today, I want to take 2 seconds to just learn a little bit about your path, because one of the things I'm sure you've also experienced too out there is so many younger people, and really, frankly, I'm going to say people our age and beyond. Everyone seems to think, oh gosh, career paths are just straight vertical lines. And au contraire, mon frère, so not true. So I'd love to hear you shed a little light about your trail.
Absolutely. Like not much is linear anymore. Like everything is so messy. Everything is so
exactly.
Yeah. But no, I've been so thank you again first for having me. Like I'm so honored to be able to be here today with you and do this with you. And yeah, like things have been very, very busy, and I'm very, very thankful to be here today because it has been quite a journey, quite a path of self-discovery, personal growth, understanding, my purpose, my gifts, my skills, and where they can best be utilized in terms of just making our community stronger and the world a better place through learning and development and growth. And so I think I always like to start from kind of the beginning a little bit, because I always was a curious child. Like I always was a curious child, gifted, grew up gifted, was in gifted education. It was a gifted child. And it's always been very interested in helping others, highly empathetic. And I decided to ultimately go into finance. I chose a career in finance because I thought it was a good way to become self-sufficient and really overcome generational poverty. I was a first generation college graduate, and I went into finance for about 6 or 7 years, spent time in personal trust, corporate trust funding, and just was like, okay, this is not doing it for me at all. I just wanted something more fulfilling, and pivoted. When I had children, I began to substitute teach so I could be home full time with my children. I was married at the time. And when I started substitute teaching, I would come home each day and just think about what I would do if the classroom was mine, and the kids really gravitated to me. And so did the school principals. I was often requested to stay at schools. And I was like, I don't know why I didn't think about this further, sooner, because I've always loved learning and been curious, and decided to go into education and really have been just full throttle, in terms of my personal professional growth. Went back to school, earned a couple degrees so I could be really good at what I wanted to do. Spent time as a teacher, K-12 teacher, mathematics and business, career and technical education teacher. Got pulled out of the classroom into leadership, which again was another pivot because I really thought that I would like retire as a school teacher because I just loved it that much. And just got pulled into leadership and went into the principalship, I was on the superintendent track, like finished my last role as a director of an innovation learning center back home in Cleveland, Ohio, which I also credit a lot with, like who I am, my upbringing in Shaker Heights, Ohio. Shout out to Shaker Heights City School District. Had landed there back home and then really thought that I had like made it. I was like, oh yes, I'm back home. I'm working in my community. This is where I want to be, doing great work for kids, for teachers. And I just didn't feel like I had enough freedom to solve real problems. It was kind of like, I felt like the way I best describe it, Kate, was I felt like I was always working with my hands tied. And I just couldn't make the decisions and think creatively about how to best support children, kids, students, learners, teachers, and decided to start my own business. In 2019, started Practical Education Solutions, which was really more of a boutique consulting firm. I did curriculum development, staff coaching, pretty much anything I could get my hands on, and relocated to Atlanta in 2020 and was able to pivot again during COVID when a lot of the learning went online, and was able to niche down to really focusing on custom curriculum and digital learning, mostly for social impact organizations. And then we rebranded just this year to iCurric, so we could really show up in the marketplace as in terms of our value proposition and how we are different from some of our competitors. So it's been quite a journey, and I'm just so grateful for all of the ups and downs and ins and outs to get where I am here today, because it's been quite the journey.
Well, and you obviously to also, I think, recognize and go along with those twists and turns, right? And to be able to make that pivot, as scary and as hard as it's going to be, especially given you finally got to this certain point and you got to change it, and you got to this point and you got to change. I'm going to say kudos to you for being principal. I mean, that is, having worked at the George Lucas Education Foundation, I know what a tough road that is, and I know what the average lifespan of a principal is. I think it's something, at least back in the day, it was about 18 months. So that is, and this, in this time of the world, all the other political, all the crazy that's going on, that job is certainly not going to gotten any easier. So I'm glad you've been able to put your talents, at least at this point in time, into a product like iCurric. So before we jump into the depth and breadth of iCurric, which is plentiful, and I can't wait for you to share it with everyone, what skills do you really feel that you relied on those early days? And how do they compare to the ones that you rely on now? Are they different at all?
I think, yes, I think that a little bit of both. It's a little bit of both. I think that when your early career, what worked for me was strong communication skills. So I've always been a strong communicator, articulate, a good, strong problem solver, and very organized and good with time management. So those are things that allowed me to advance my career just off of just kind of natural talent and gifts in terms of like how I process information. And as I started to go into leadership and advance in my career, I found that having and particularly when it comes to being an educator, I'm what you consider a generalist. So I know a little bit about like most things, which has been very, very helpful. But I'm also a specialist where I can go really deep when it comes to learning theory, curriculum design, what's best for both adult learners and child learners, pedagogy and andragogy. So having both that kind of breadth and depth, that combination has worked really well for me. And then the last thing I think is the tech skills, because when I was a senior in high school, I'll never forget, I was a senior in high school. I was in a cooperative business education program that allowed you to, seniors that had pretty much finished their curriculum, you would go to this cooperative business education program and then work, the rest of your day. It was like work study. And my teacher, Glenda Moss, again, shout out to Shaker Heights City Schools. I will never forget the day, Kate. She came in, it was 1998, and she said, okay, class, today we're going to get on the World Wide Web, and we're all like, okay, what are you talking about? And I can hear the dial up, this sheet of paper. So being kind of on that cusp of millennial and brought up, with the advancement of the internet, those skills, and then I learned how to type on a typewriter. Those tech skills, learning those computer skills early on, and then being introduced to how the internet has changed things right, like when it happened, has been a huge leverage point for me, because I'm able to adapt easily as the technology changes. It's really a part of how I work. So I think those things together have been kind of like my building blocks for what we see as my career, my business now.
Yeah, it's interesting. Listening to you, it raises the point that, because I learned how to type on a typewriter. I learned how to do binary code.
Remember the whiteout? Did we have the whiteout?
Yes, the whiteout, and also the thing with the interchangeable eraser tape. Anyway, I remember it all. And but you raise a really good point. Is there is this window of generation where you had to you were in the midst of the technological pivot, and so I often like it to, you come to expect, and of course, when there's a new technology, there's going to be an adoption phase. There's going to be a part where it blows up and it fails, and then it's going to iterate. And so I think there's a group of us that are a little bit more patient, perhaps understanding kind of our expectations are intact with, this is not going to change absolutely everything. Gosh, I'd love it. But we're going to kind of find it's going to change. So we got to get ready to change as well and move along with it. Because one of the things I was going to ask is, especially in those early days, you clearly were one of the younger generation. And that's one of the biggest challenges right now is there's so many generations working under one roof, 5 or 6. So not only is it, initially I was curious, how does one build a culture of trust? I'd be curious what your company is like, but also, how do you simply even communicate, right? I mean, their language is different. Questions are different. The thinking behind the question is different. And that's because we're wired so differently. So
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I think one thing that helps with intergenerational like communication, it's almost like intercultural communication.
It is. It totally is.
It's a skill. One thing that helps me personally is that I'm a mother, so I have 2 beautiful teenagers. I would be completely remiss not to mention them on this podcast right now. I have a daughter. She's 20. She's a fashion design student at SCAD. And then my son is 18. He's a football player studying business out in Iowa. And it helps, to have someone close proximity in terms of just being able to relate and stay abreast, as the generation. That's like a personal antidote for me that helps me, keep me on my toes, to keep my view of diversity. And surrounding yourself with diverse groups of people and diverse experiences that are going to allow you to develop that empathy for different perspectives across generations, different experiences that have led to those perspectives, having the empathy and that understanding of why behind there's a difference in perspectives and approach to doing things. There's a lot of history that comes along with that. And I think that the more you embrace it and you make that a part of who you are, the trust becomes kind of a byproduct of that, because it's all relational, and how I understand myself is how I understand others. So yeah, I think you have to stay open and just be empathetic, and then also really understanding the value, Kate. Like I'm thinking about power structures, and how sometimes the organization can take on a power structure that kind of like overshadows the value of the people and the diverse experiences and perspectives that they bring to the work that we're here to do together. So you have to be mindful of that, and having a couple of teenagers around helps.
Yeah, that keeps one humble.
They will tell you this, the younger generations, they will tell you. If you really want to know, go ask them.
So often I don't even need to ask. I'm just corrected. But the truth is, when we look through time, that's kind of the role of the younger generation. It's to poke the amoeba, right? It's to poke the sleeping bear so that it doesn't get lackadaisical and it doesn't get slow and grounded, especially, future forward. Everything is going so much more quickly. Evolution is going quickly. Innovation is going quickly. Technology is going quickly. I think, to your point, that notion of ever learning, ever curious. You do that and you just realize, I don't know it all. And thank God, because it takes pressure off me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to say something about that, because, and I don't think I said this, humility, right? I participated in like a nonprofit performance and nonprofit education with the Harvard Business School earlier this year. And one of the presenters talked a lot about how oftentimes our leaders, because they lack humility, they miss the opportunity of being more efficient and effective in innovation and solving problems, because the people that are around them that don't necessarily have the experience that they have, they don't value it in a way that demonstrates their humility for unique perspectives and experiences across generations. And it can be stifling, not just from an organizational standpoint, but it compounds, because if this is happening in the organization, then it's going to compound to the community and then to a region, to the world. And you kind of see it, in these little seeds and how we relate to ourselves and others.
Yeah. And you know what you just also made me think about too, combining this and circling this up, tying in a nice little tiny bow. And that's where the power struggle comes in, right? Because you're coming from a place, those who fought so hard to get it want to hold on to it for dear life, right? So that's where that whole notion of leading from the field versus leading from the bench, and having a moment and realizing, wow, okay, I'm here. Now I can use my platform to help this person and this person and then this person. And let's face it, we all know giving and receiving, it's reciprocal. So that actually, the irony to me has always been the leaders, when knowledge is power when it's shared. Platforms are power when they're shared. And the more you do that, the more it shines on you favorably.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
if not, you're selfish and scared, and that's sad. And then hence the entire organization will cease to really be probably as innovative as it could have been.
Yes, absolutely.
All of innovation, you of all people know this is fear. So speaking of innovation, in your mind, especially since you've recently been out and about in the world stage, what to you are some of the most interesting innovations in the ed tech space?
It's so much. AI is taking over right now. AI is but we've had a lot of precursors that have led to this. If I had to, the internet is number one. The access to information via the World Wide Web, via the internet, has just changed the game in terms of accessibility, shared knowledge building, just decreasing the time of implementation when we think about like various disciplines and their growth and changing and getting that out into the masses to better inform training and development of business and industry and economies. So the internet by far is number one. And then you have these other kind of these supporting casts, like, massive online courses, learning management systems, of course, these various like supporting technologies that have allowed us to better structure how the internet increases access to education. Because again, going back to like when we first started to use the internet, it was just like a free for all, and now you see a lot of different apps, learning management systems, course structures, platforms. You did, Sarah, these various innovators that have really provided structure to streamline. And then we see AI getting ready to just elevate, what access, personalization of learning looks like, flexibility, providing training and development with inflow of work. It's just going to really take us to the next level. So I'm excited about it. And I know that I dedicate a good amount of my time to really understanding, AI and what the benefits are, what the potential drawbacks may be, because there's always going to be like some, the pros and cons.
Of course.
But I'm really excited, about the potential benefits of AI in terms of learning and development for underserved communities.
See, this is the thing that I agree. And I think this was one of the things when I was speaking to the folks over at Microsoft, they were sharing that they actually saw AI as one of the great delivery mechanisms of access. It can help because at least it gives people access to information, insight, and somewhat of a competitive platform. But
yeah.
So is there any havoc you see that it could perhaps?
Yeah. Because it's all relative, Kate. When we think about access, it's all relative. So I was at MIT, earlier this year, listening to what their thoughts on AI, and they pretty much said flat out, like, "Hey, AI is going to make us dumber." And I'm like, "Oh, that's something that wasn't true," because you hear kind of these different theories about what's going to happen. Like people are trying to predict it, when the truth of the matter is no one really knows what's going to happen because we've never been here before. We didn't know that our whole lives would be centered around a smartphone, 20 years ago. We didn't know that. But we really don't know, what's going to happen. We can kind of look at the trends and kind of throw some things out there, but we don't know. So it's a tough spot to be in because you want to be equitable. So when I talk about it's all relative, depending on what your access point is into understanding what AI is going to determine how beneficial it's going to be for you. So you think about at the very really lowest level, ChatGPT being like the face or the commercialization of AI. That's a very, very small example, of what access looks like. But it can be huge though, because I use ChatGPT. Everyone's using it. It can be very productive in terms of reducing the time to create for content creators in my field, curriculum developers and things like that. It can be very, very beneficial. But if you think about how AI is also being used to solve huge problems in sustainability, in medical advances. So depending on where and then you have people who are not even using ChatGPT. They barely know about it. They're just hearing about it and what that lag is going to look like in terms of equity in digital access. There's a lag, just like with the internet and other technological advances that have happened. So I think as leaders and educators, is really our job to, like we did with the internet, set up the kind of pillars, the structures, the policy, want to allow equitable access to the benefits of AI versus it just being kind of a free for all.
And you also don't want it to just result in people throwing, I mean, critical thinking is already practically a thing of the past. So when when you're getting the answer from ChatGPT, you also have to take a moment to actually read it and see if it even makes sense. That's the thing. It isn't just Calgon, take me away, come up with the answer for me. At all. So there still has to be an accountability and a responsibility. And that still seems to be something that people they complain that they want it, but then when they have it, they kind of don't want it. You know what I mean? They don't necessarily want to activate it. So then, the other day I was talking to Jenna McGregor, who is the Future of Work editor over at Forbes. I've known Jenna for a while, days at Business Week and Fast Company, and I guess before she was at Washington Post, and we were talking about innovation in AI. And she said, the concern she has, where are the women? Women, for some reason, are falling behind in AI. And I know this isn't obviously your area of expertise, but it kind of could be because one, you're a woman and you have this iCurric. I mean, how can we change that?
Yeah. So I kind of have two perspectives on it because I think that we're behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I think that we are working parallel, to the development and rolling out, sort of say, of AI. Really looking at deeper into how AI might support the industries that we serve. So I think we're working parallel, not necessarily, I wouldn't call it like full blown behind just yet, but it has the potential of us being behind because we like to take our time to really understand things before we kind of go full throttle. So I think I'm seeing some of that. But I also think, going back to my earlier point, that it's really like the onus of like leaders in AI to really provide more opportunities. We need more opportunity sooner. I think that the youth need more opportunities sooner to learn about what the capabilities are as it relates to the problems as it relates to their reality, the problems that they face in their community and the things that they are passionate about. We need more just knowledge sharing, about the potential of it so that we have a better understanding of how we might leverage our current skill sets and our leadership skills to further disseminate the technology in a way that's going to be impactful to our communities. Because for women, for the most part, for women, it's really about that connection to our communities and how we show up. So we're not going to just jump off the boat and just go into just because it's the thing. We're gonna take our time. We're gonna learn, and once we have a good understanding about what the impact is, we're gonna be right in there with it, I think. But we can't wait too long, though. We can't wait too long, and I think that it's the industry leaders to really set that stage for us to create more opportunities sooner.
And that's a really interesting point because it's that our very tendency to do such a comprehensive review is oftentimes why people say, "Oh, you're risk averse." No, we're just trying to be smart about it so we can a little bit ahead, right? Because we understand the ripples. That's why everyone have better portfolios in an investment world. But that's another topic for another day. Yeah. So now let's talk about iCurric, your inspiration for it. What got you going? How did it come to be?
Yeah. It really is. It's about my passion for solving problems and helping people. It's about me being able to work on a scale, working in a small scope, and then once I build it out, kind of blowing it up, I like to be able to take my time. So working with social impact organizations, small social impact organizations like the Russell Center, like the Atlanta Black Chambers, it really it gives me just the right amount of space to solve critical problems for underserved communities. and then build out the model in a way that's scalable for that social impact organization from a learning and development standpoint. So we get to both customize the learning experience through the curriculum by supporting the organization and making sure that they say they do what they say they're going to do through whatever learning program that they provide. So we help them with that curriculum, that path to get the outcomes that they're looking to achieve. And then we also customize the technology enablement of that experience to make sure that it's going to be the most impactful and accessible. So with the Russell Innovation Center for Entrepreneurs, I'm so excited because we've been working on Digital Rice, which is their digital learning platform. I've been working on it for it'll be 3 years next year. And we're just finished building out all of the content, making sure it has a strong UI, UX design that's accessible to entrepreneurs all over the world. And really, really excited about it and grateful, Kate, so grateful to have been given the opportunity to do this important work. So,
well, I love this because it enables you to do sort of a like a BB shot, as it were, as opposed to one big boom. You're actually getting to touch a lot of different entities, which is huge and terrific. And it just, it's your version of, equity and innovation at scale, essentially.
yeah,
I know that human
absolutely.
design is, I know it plays a key differentiating factor. Talk a little bit about that, how that came about.
So design thinking, human-centered design is a component of instructional design. So I'm an instructional designer, and that just basically means that I have a couple of different frameworks that I use to make sure when we create curriculum that it's going to get the outcome that our customers or our learners or whoever we're serving that are trying to achieve. We mostly use a backwards design framework. So I start with the end in mind. It's very, very similar to backwards engineering.
Yep.
This is some in design thinking in the engineering space. Our disciplines are very, very similar. But the human-centered design is a personal choice for iCurric for myself, because it's always about the people for me. It's always about the people and making sure that I'm keeping the unique needs, those experiences that I talked about earlier, who they are at the forefront of our design work. So, and that's really like a huge differentiating factor between iCurric and some of our similar offerings or design or companies that do training and curriculum development. Because normally it's usually one or the other. It's instructional design, outcomes based, or it's human-centered design. But we combine them both in making sure that from a human-centered design, so we're thinking about the needs, the experiences, the background, the learning styles of the end user first, and then we're working the instructional design principles into creating the curriculum and the learning experience.
Got it. Okay. Well, that's, I just think I love that you've incorporated that. I think it's really key, and that's an extraordinary differentiator. Well, so in closing, what advice would you give your younger self, knowing what you now know?
My goodness. I think that I would probably tell myself just to relax, breathe deep. Everything is going to be okay. And believe in yourself, believe in yourself, and don't be afraid to put yourself first. Don't be afraid to have a big idea, a big vision, big goals for yourself, and to put yourself first in accomplishing those goals and to developing yourself both personally and professionally, because there's a lot of sacrifice, that comes to becoming who it is that you desire to be or who you were meant to be. And in order to do that work, you have to be willing and okay with putting yourself first. So that's what I would tell myself.
Yep. You got to make space and take up space.
Make space and take up space and be okay with that.
Exactly. Say yes to you. Oh, so true. So, if people want to get in touch with you, where should they go?
So thank you again so much, Kay. You're amazing. I cannot wait we're going to work together. Like every time we get together, it's like this, but thank you so much. It's just such a pleasure. Follow me on LinkedIn. They can contact me or connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. Check out our website, iCurric.com. There's a Go Global conference coming up on October 3rd. There's a virtual Go Global conference that iCurric is sponsoring for the Atlanta Black Chamber's Go Global conference. I don't know if this is going to come out before then or may come after that, but follow me on LinkedIn and connect with me on LinkedIn. Check out our website. And yeah, I'd love to just chit chat and learn more about your audience and what they have going on.
Perfect. Terrific. Well, listen, thank you. Thank you. So glad to have the illustrious Dr. John Sizemore, founder and CEO of iCurric, to join us and kick us off this season. Best of everything to you. I will be, this is far from over. This is, to your point, just the beginning. So thanks so much. And as
I gotta get out there with you and do some vacationing.
There we go. I know. So anyway, fantastic. Until next time, thanks so much. Thanks for listening. May this episode inspire you to move forward. Be sure to go to iTunes, Spotify, katebyrne.co, that's KATEBYRNE.co, or wherever you listen to your podcasts, and listen to even more episodes. Here's to strong women. May we know them, may we be them, may we raise them. Be sure to meet them on the next Women Advancing. Ta till next time.